Welcome to A Year of War and Peace. I'm your host, Brian E. Denton. A Year of War and Peace is a daily, year-long, chapter-by-chapter reading of and meditation on Leo Tolstoy's epic novel, War and Peace. In these videos and podcasts, you'll be treated to a free reading of one chapter per day of the novel, plus a reflective essay I've written individually tailored to that day's chapter. These readings are offered for free, though if you'd like to support me, you can do so in one of three ways. First, you could purchase my ebook, A Year of War and Peace. It features the entire novel, plus all of my reflective essays, and it's only $2.99 on Amazon.com. You could also become a patron at patreon.com/Brian E. Denton. If you sign up there, you'll receive a sonnet once a month, plus a link to an ebook of my collected sonnets. Finally, if you like, you can make a one-time donation to my PayPal account. The email there is brianedenton@gmail.com. You can also use that email to contact me. I'd be happy to hear from you. Your support is greatly appreciated. Today's reading and reflection is on Chapter 113. Chapter 113. The Rostovs' monetary affairs had not improved during the 2 years they had spent in the country. Though Nicholas Rostov had kept firmly to his resolution and was still serving modestly in an obscure regiment, spending comparatively little, the way of life at Otradno, Matika's management of affairs in particular, was such that the debts inevitably increased every year. The only resource obviously presenting itself to the old count was to apply for an official post. So he had come to Petersburg to look for one, and also, as he said, to let the lassies enjoy themselves for the last time. Soon after their arrival in Petersburg, Berg proposed to Vera and was accepted. Though in Moscow the Rostovs belonged to the best society without themselves giving it a thought, yet in Petersburg their circle of acquaintances was a mixed and indefinite one. In Petersburg they were provincials, and the very people they had entertained in Moscow without inquiring to what set they belonged, here looked down on them. The Rostovs lived in the same hospitable way in Petersburg as in Moscow, and the most diverse people met at their suppers. Country neighbors from Otradno, impoverished old squires and their daughters, Peronskaya, maid of honor, Pierre Bezukov, and the son of their district postmaster who obtained a post in Petersburg. Among the men who very soon became frequent visitors at the Rostovs' house in Petersburg were Boris, Pierre, whom the count had met in the street and dragged with him home, and Berg, who spent whole days at the Rostovs and paid the eldest daughter, Countess Vera, the attentions a young man pays when he intends to propose. Not in vain had Berg shown everybody his right hand wounded at Austerlitz, and held a perfectly unnecessary sword in his left. He narrated that episode so persistently, and with so important an air, that everyone believed in the merit and usefulness of this deed, and he had obtained 2 decorations for Austerlitz. In the Finnish War, he also managed to distinguish himself. He had picked up the scrap of a grenade that had killed an aide-de-camp standing near the commander-in-chief, and had taken it to his commander. Just as he had done after Austerlitz, he related this occurrence at such length and so insistently that everyone again believed it had been necessary to do this, and he received 2 decorations for the Finnish War also. In 1809, he was a captain in the Guards, wore medals, and had some special lucrative post in Petersburg. Though some skeptics smiled when told of Berg's merits, it could not be denied that he was a painstaking and a brave officer, on excellent terms with his superiors, and a moral young man with a brilliant career before him, and an assured position in society. 4 years before, meeting a German comrade in the stalls of a Moscow theater, Berg had pointed out Vera Rostova to him, and said in German, "Das soll mein Lieb werden," and from that moment had made up his mind to marry her. Now in Petersburg, having considered the Rostovs' position and his own, he decided that the time had come to propose. Berg's proposal was at first received with a perplexity that was not flattering to him. At first it seemed strange that the son of an obscure Livonian gentleman should propose marriage to a Countess Rostova. But Berg's chief characteristic was such a naive and good-natured egotism that the Rostovs involuntarily came to think it would be a good thing, since he himself was so firmly convinced that it was good, indeed excellent. Moreover, the Rostovs' affairs were seriously embarrassed, as the suitor could not but know. And above all, Vera was 24, had been taken out everywhere, and though she was certainly good-looking and sensible, no one up to now had proposed to her. So they gave their consent. "You see," said Berg to his comrade, whom he called friend, only because he knew that everyone was friends. "You see, I have considered it all, and should not marry if I had not thought it out, or if it were any way unsuitable. But on the contrary, my papa and my mamma are now provided for. I have arranged that rent for them in the Baltic provinces, and I can live in Petersburg on my pay, and with her fortune and my good management we can get along nicely. I am not marrying for money. I consider that dishonorable. But a wife should bring her share and a husband his. I have my position in the service. She has connections and some means. In our times that is worth something, isn't it? Above all, she is handsome, an estimable girl, and she loves me." Berg blushed and smiled. "And I love her, because her character is sensible and very good. Now the other sister, though they are from the same family, is quite different, an unpleasant character, and has not the same intelligence. She is so, unpleasant. But my fiancée, well, you will be coming." He was going to say to dine, but changed his mind and said to take tea with us, and quickly doubling up his tongue, he blew a small ring of tobacco smoke, perfectly embodying his dreams of happiness. After the first feeling of perplexity aroused in the parents by Berg's proposal, the holiday tone of joyousness usual at that time took possession of the family, but the rejoicing was external and insincere. In the family's feeling towards this wedding a certain awkwardness and constraint was evident, as if they were ashamed of not having loved Vera sufficiently, and of being so ready to get her off their hands. The old count felt this the most. He would probably have been unable to state the cause of his embarrassment, but it resulted from the state of his affairs. He did not know at all how much he had, what his debts amounted to, or what dowry he could give Vera. When his daughters were born, he had assigned to each of them, for her dowry, an estate with 300 serfs. But one of these estates had already been sold, and the other was mortgaged, and the interest so much in arrears that it would have to be sold, so that it was impossible to give it to Vera. Nor had he any money. Berg had already been engaged a month, and only a week remained before the wedding. But the count had not yet decided in his own mind the question of the dowry, nor spoken to his wife about it. At one time the count thought of giving her the Ryazan estate or of selling a forest, at another time of borrowing money on a note of hand. A few days before the wedding, Berg entered the count's study early one morning, and with a pleasant smile, respectfully asked his future father-in-law to let him know what Vera's dowry would be. The count was so disconcerted by this long-foreseen inquiry that without consideration he gave the first reply that came to his head. "I like your being businesslike about it. I like it. You shall be satisfied." And patting Berg on the shoulder, he got up, wishing to end the conversation. But Berg, smiling pleasantly, explained that if he did not know for certain how much Vera would have, and did not receive at least part of the dowry in advance, he would have to break matters off. "Because consider, Count, if I allowed myself to marry now without having definite means to maintain my wife, I should be acting badly." The conversation was ended by the Count, who wished to be generous and to avoid further importunity, saying that he would give a note of hand for 80,000 rubles. Berg smiled meekly, kissed the Count on the shoulder, and said that he was very grateful, but that it was impossible for him to arrange his new life without receiving 30,000 in ready money. "Or at least 20,000, Count," he added, "and then a note of hand for only 60,000. Yes, all right," said the Count hurriedly. "Only excuse me, my dear fellow. I'll give you 20,000 and a note of hand for 80,000 as well. Yes. Kiss me." All right, that concludes my reading of chapter 113. Gotta love the old Count Rostov. What a guy. And here is my reflection on chapter 113. A Year of War and Peace, day 113. Doubtable Foundations. Diogenes the Cynic once said that neither in a rich city nor in a rich household can virtue make its dwelling. Virtue apparently also has a tough time living in a household built upon the doubtable foundations of debt and mere pretension of riches. That's the situation of the Rostov family. And as we can see, it leads them, or at least Count Rostov, to some fairly unethical and unvirtuous ends. Tolstoy has hinted at Rostov's money problems ever since they hosted Natasha's name day party way back at the beginning of the novel. From now on, however, the Rostov financial problems will no longer be just hints. They'll be superabundant slaps to the face. The first hurt laid upon them is that Count Rostov must, horror of horrors, take a job to generate some income. He accepts a position in Petersburg and brings his family there from their country estate. But this is about the only sensible step Count Rostov takes to fix his financial situation. The true nature of his financial distress is brought into sharp relief after Berg proposes marriage to Vera. While this means that the Count will be responsible for one less mouth to feed, it also means he'll have to pay a dowry. He can't pay a dowry. We're told that when his 3 daughters were born, he, prudently, set aside 3 estates for each of their dowries. Less prudently, he proceeded over the years to sell them or to mortgage them. Now he has no estates, no money, and no ability to provide his daughters with a dowry. Berg isn't too happy about this and informs the Count that unless he can provide Vera with her dowry, he cannot in good faith enter into marriage with her. Count Rostov finds himself in this position because he has continuously failed to live and plan consistently. He has also been dishonest and careless about his financial position. Instead of doing the right thing, like saving money and prudently managing his estates, he's thrown wildly extravagant parties and paid for everyone and everything. Now those checks are coming due. If only he had been consistent in his living, he would not be in this tough situation. Daily meditation. Is it possible to be free from faults? It is not possible. But this is possible, to direct your efforts incessantly at being faultless. For we must be content if by never remitting this attention, we shall escape at least a few errors. Epictetus, The Discourses. All right, that concludes my reading of and reflection on chapter 113. I hope you liked it. Thanks so much for listening. Remember that if you'd like to support me, you can do so either by purchasing the ebook, A Year of War and Peace, becoming a patron at patreon.com, or making a one-time donation at PayPal. The links to all that are below. Your support is greatly appreciated. Tomorrow we will be reading and reflecting on chapter 114. I hope you'll join me. Until then, take care of yourselves and others.